Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome back. Now, a while ago, I showed you a video how to create a separate storage pool on your Synology NAS, which only consists of that M.2 NVMe you have sitting in there, that M.2 SSD you have sitting in there. You can reuse it and create a storage pool in there, even if you have NVMe's in there which are not officially supported by Synology. Now that storage pool you created, it has a lot of performance, and one of the reasons you would want to use it is run your Docker containers there. Because I know in my production environment, I'm running a few Docker containers and I would want them on that fast storage pool and take advantage of the performance. Another way to use that fast storage pool would be to run virtual machines there, for example. In this video, I will show you how to move those Docker containers from one volume to another volume on your Synology and still keep the configuration and data there. Because you don't want to recreate every Docker container after moving it from one storage pool to the other storage pool. If you have a lot of Docker containers with a lot of applications running, it can be a very time-consuming task. Let's get into it. This is my virtual DSM. If you followed the video I posted earlier, check the link in the description, you will have a separate volume there, and that volume will be running on those NVMe drives. That second volume, that's the volume I want to use for my Docker containers because it's fast. It's better performing than volume 1, which is just RAID configuration with simple SATA disks. So the first thing we need to do is we need to move that folder where all my Docker information is. As you can see here, I have container manager running in my DSM, and this container manager, it has one container just for demo purposes, and it is Jellyfin. Now, Jellyfin is configured to run from volume 1 and /docker. The Docker folder, that's the place where I'm keeping configuration data of all my containers. It's in one place, it makes it easy to backup. It also makes it easy to move it from one volume to another volume. As you can see here, this is volume 1 /docker /jellyfin. What I've done, if you go to file station, you will see the shared Docker there, and it has that Jellyfin container, which has the configuration and the data for my Jellyfin container. Now, the first thing we need to do is move this Docker container, which is at volume 1 to volume 2. Now, Docker manager, that is container manager, as long as it's running, it will not allow us to move the data. Now, how are we going to move that data? We simply go to Control Panel in DSM and look up that Docker folder. This Docker folder is sitting on volume 1. And when we click on Edit, now you see that you have the location. You can change this location to that second volume or that volume which is running on that NVMe drive. So if I select the second one, and if I click on save, Synology DSM will do the move of all the data for me. But if I hit it now, it will tell me you can do it because Container Manager Docker is using the shared folder which is living here on volume 1. And to move it, you have to disable the package first. Let's click on OK and click on cancel. We won't save anything here because we can't save it. We have to disable Container Manager first. So we'll go to Package Center. Let's open up Package Center here. I already have it open here, and I can see that Container Manager is running. Let's stop Container Manager. If you stop Container Manager, it will stop the Docker daemon. That's basically what we need. Let's stop this. Wait for it to finish. It is stopped. You can see we can click on run. We'll do that in a second. So now if you go back to control panel, it will allow us, the control panel on your DSM will allow us to move that Docker shared folder. Remember, the Docker shared folder is automatically created when you install Container Manager or Docker on your Synology, right? And I keep all my Docker configuration data in this volume. It's set up purposely for Docker, of course. All right, if I click on edit, now I am able to move this shared folder, which contains all my container configuration and data of all the containers I'm running on my Synology. I am able to select another volume for its location. Now, the second volume will be on my NVMe drive. So if I click on save, it will ask, do you know for sure that you want to move it? Because if you are going to move it, some things can break. Make sure that you understand it. I will click on OK. As you can see, it will check the space on that target volume, and it has already moved that shared volume to my volume 2. Remember, my volume 2 is the volume which is created on that NVMe drive, on those NVMe drives living in my Synology NVMe M.2 slots. So now that I have moved Docker container to volume 2, there are certain things you have to take care of before starting up Container Manager and Docker and checking if everything is running fine on your containers. There are certain steps to go through. The first thing what we are going to check is go to File Station. And now if you hover with your mouse over that Docker shared folder, you can see it is living on volume 2. And as you can see here, my Jellyfin container is still there, the configuration is still there, and all the data which would be here is still there because now everything is moved to volume 2. If we click on the right click on it and click on properties, you can see here it's living on my second volume. So this is okay. This means that my shared folder still contains all the configuration and all the data. Now the second thing we are going to do is we're going to start that container manager. Let's just refresh this for a second, go to Container Manager and click on Run. Because we have to start up Docker, it has to know that a Docker shared volume is living now on volume 2. That the Docker shared folder is living on volume 2. It is started up, so that's okay. Let's go back to my Container Manager and it will say, well, there are some errors. What's the error? That container which I had, it is not able to start. And why is it not able to start? If you click on this, you will still see that the volumes which are mapped to this container, to this Jellyfin container, are still pointing to volume 1/docker/jellyfin. Of course, this path doesn't exist anymore because everything within that Docker shared folder, we have moved it to volume 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to the settings tab of this container. And as you can see here, the volume settings, these are pointing still to my volume 1. I have to change it and point it to volume 2. So what I will do, I will just copy this path. Let's click on Add Folder, browse to that Jellyfin config folder, select it. Now paste over that data and make sure that because this will then say, well, the value already exists. I know I have to delete that top one. Because now I have mapped it, I have created the /config volume mapping to the right Docker volume, to the right Docker shared folder. So I will delete that. And then I have to do the same with the folder which is living where all my media is. I have to point it to the Docker folder on that new volume. So what I will do, I will just copy this. Say click add folder, go to Docker, go to Jellyfin and select the data folder, and now I will paste that value there. So this way I made sure that the mapping is now on the right place where the right Docker folder is, and then I can delete the top one, otherwise I will have that same error and it will say that already exists. So now I have adjusted the volume settings to that new volume, to the new location where Docker folder is living. Let's click on save. It says, okay, I have updated the container Jellyfin. All right, let's click on the container again. And now you can see here that the volume is pointing to the Docker shared folder on volume 2. That's the volume I want because that's where my fast NVMe's are. That volume is living on that fast NVMe's, those fast M.2 drives. And I know that the path is correct now. And on top of it, it does say, of course, it will try to start a container and it will say, well, that path doesn't exist anymore. But now I've made sure that I've corrected that error and I can click on start. And now it says Jellyfin is started successfully. Everything is working, everything is running. You can see the usage again, you can see log files as well. And this container is now moved from volume 2 to volume 1, sorry, to volume 2, with everything, with all the configuration and your media database and your media files as well. So if I go to Jellyfin and I clear refresh this, well, this is running now from that second volume, and that second volume is living on that fast NVMe. And I know that my Docker container will take advantage of the speed on which that volume is living. And there we have it. This is an easy way of moving Docker data, that persistent container data, from one volume to another volume. And that other volume is hopefully running on that faster storage in your Synology. And the steps that you have to take are disable Docker daemon, move all the data using that Synology option, and then basically point the mappings, the volume mappings of your containers to the new path, to that new Docker path on your new volume, and start up the containers, and everything will still be in place. But now your Docker containers will run hopefully a little bit faster because you're using a pool which is running on fast drives. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click on the like and the subscribe button below. If you leave a comment, I will get to it as soon as I can, of course. And see you next time. Bye.